Today's tutorial is a step-by-step guide to packing some smaller size artworks for shipping. Shipping artwork can be extremely tricky. Museums and galleries have entire teams dedicated to the handling of artwork. Fine art shipping is in and of itself an entire industry, and if you had an extremely expensive piece of artwork, you'd want to use this option. But beginning, mid-level, and even professional artists generally can't rely on this. It's simply too expensive. However, by taking the necessary precautions and knowing how to package your work correctly, you can ensure that it arrives safely and undamaged at its destination. I'm not just going through the motions today, I'm genuinely packing these artworks up to send to a client who purchased them, and at the end of the video I'll let you know how much I paid to ship them. I'm packing artwork on panels here, but if I were packing a stretched canvas, we would follow the same steps. I'm going to line them up so they face one another. If we had only one canvas or one panel, we would want to put a little bit of additional packing on the face side of our artwork. Other than that, the process is identical. It's important to know that there is no one-size-fits-all method for packing. It really depends on what the work is made up of and its scale. If we were packing a very large work or something that was extremely fragile like ceramics or glass, we would want to build a crate. Here are the materials we're going to be using today. Artist tape, packing tape, plastic sheeting. This is the kind of stuff that's often used as a drop cloth when painting rooms, and it comes in a variety of thicknesses. We want to stick to something at least 2 millimeters thick. And glassine. This is the only item we're using today that's not found in a hardware store. Glassine is a neutral pH translucent paper that's used for covering prints and storage and for interleaving books. And we need large sheets of both corrugated cardboard and corrugated plastic. Corrugated plastic is exactly what it sounds like. It's a replica of cardboard, but much sturdier, waterproof, and holds up to wear and tear. These are the two pieces I'll be shipping. The very first step before we begin any packing is photo documentation. You want to take exhaustive photos of your work before packing it up. This ensures that you have a visual record of the artwork's condition the last time you handled the work. Should anything happen to the work during shipping, arrival, or unpacking, you want to have documentation of the condition of the work when it left your studio. Our first packing step is glassine. Cut a piece of glassine large enough to wrap around the back of your piece and tape it to the back with artist tape. Glassine is a great protective layer to ensure that nothing scratches the surface of your painting or drawing. It's important to note, however, that this is temporary and we don't want to store paintings with glassine on their surface. If you have a drawing that doesn't utilize any paint and has been fixed with professional fixative, it's fine to store them wrapped in glassine. But any painting materials, particularly acrylic paints or oils that haven't fully oxidized, should not be stored with glassine for months or years. Over time, the layers of paint have a tendency to want to adhere to anything that's touching them, and it's possible for a small bit of glassine to become embedded in the surface. This can be removed later, but why risk it in the first place? Again, this is totally safe for a few days or weeks, but just not much longer. Our next step is to do essentially the same thing with a piece of plastic sheeting, cutting it to size and taping it around the back. We'll switch to packing tape here to get some good adhesion. When packing your artwork with this packing tape, it's a good idea to remember, if you can, to make tabs with each piece of tape that you put down. These tabs are just a small fold at one end that make it a lot easier to remove the tape when it's being unpacked. If you've ever had to unwrap something that's covered in packing tape, you'll know how difficult it can be to get up, so these tabs make unpacking a lot easier. Once that's done, I cut a few sheets of cardboard. First, I want one to be sandwiched in between our two surfaces, and then I'm going to cut one that will sit on the backs of each side. One of these panels is slightly smaller than the other, so I cut them accordingly. One other tip to make unpacking easier is what I'm doing right here. Any of this tape that's between the cardboard is going to want to get stuck to the sides of that plastic sheeting, which is going to make a mess and probably tear it a little bit and just make unpacking generally unpleasant. By folding it in on itself in any of these sections, you minimize the chance of this headache. With the cardboard secured into place, we'll move on to bubble wrap. Our last step is to build a box out of our coroplast. Here is a template of what that box will look like. I've also put a link in our description to a file that you can download for free. The first thing we need to do is take a measurement of the general width of our piece with all the packing material included. Keeping in mind we want to round up rather than down. If the box is too small, we won't be able to fit the artwork inside, but if it's too large, we can always supplement with a little bit more packing material. This measurement will determine the depth of our box as highlighted here. These two large areas are determined by the measurements of the width and height of your artwork. Now that my measurements are taken, I'm going to carefully score the material where I need it, which allows it to fold in even lines. And I'll make full cuts wherever the red lines on my diagram dictate. Out of the leftover plastic, I cut small corner reinforcements and adhere them where necessary. And now we're ready to assemble and tape up the box. And that's it. We bring it to the post office, address it, and send it off. I shipped this via UPS, and it cost about $130 fully insured to ship across 3 states. Not too bad.